Okay, so one of the takeaways that I got from the book is that love is not broken by death. I need you to expand on that a little bit.
Well, if you think about it, really, how could it be? I lost my mother in 2007, but in the physical form, but in reality, she's in my heart. We still speak about her on all the holidays, and so love can never die. But I want to take it a step further because I don't believe that you can die. I don't believe that I can die. I believe that death is just one big illusion. The way it's presented to us, it in a scary way. And see, I don't think it has to be that way. I think death can be exciting. I think death could be
Inviting.
inviting. Socrates, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but he said something to the effect is, why do men fear death? They don't even know what the hell it is.
Right.
Okay? And they're petrified of it. I was blessed. My wife was alive when my mother passed away in '07. And so we went through that experience. And frankly, my father wasn't prepared for it, and I don't think her 5 children were prepared for it. And so it didn't go that smoothly. And she actually laid in a coma for a week, in my opinion, not letting go because my father would not say goodbye. And she was hanging on for him to say goodbye.
Wow.
And once he did, we had some conversations and hospice helped us to teach him the importance of it, she was gone within 12 hours. And so when Margot became terminal, we were very fortunate to have an expert in people's death. He spent his whole life doing it, my dear friend Dale, come to our house every day. And Margot said goodbye to everybody. And my friend Dale told Margot what to expect when she took her last breath and what was going to happen. And so we all said goodbye. I said goodbye to her. She said goodbye to me long before she left. And so then when it was time and she lost conscious, I don't think my wife was unconscious for more than 3 hours. And she was only 38 years old, so she's still fairly, young and somewhat healthy, if you will. But she was prepared. And instead of being a terrible, agonizing event, it was a blessed, sacred, beautiful, loving event. Doesn't mean I wasn't devastated after the fact because she was gone and I was alone. So back to death and illusion. I mean, I was so fortunate to really question her death because I was exposed to the teachings of a great spiritual mentor and teacher, Byron Katie, who teaches you to question everything. And basically the question is, my wife died, and the question is that true? And so what Katie taught me is I went back into that moment, into our bedroom, and she's lying on our bed, and I'm sitting at the end of the bed, and her mother's sitting there next to her, and her sister's up by her head sitting on the bed, and she took her last breath. And I immediately put my ear to her heart. Her mother took her pulse, and her sister ran to the other room to turn off the oxygen machine so we could hear. So she took her last breath. Her body quit working. So in the technical sense of the word dead, she was dead. But in reality, as I question it again, because Katie teaches you, can you absolutely 100% know that it's true, my wife died? And so I go back into the room, I go, well, wait a minute. Yeah, she took her last breath, her heart quit beating, she didn't have a pulse, the body wasn't working, but wait a minute, her essence is still there. I could feel her presence. I could feel her soul. I could feel her spirit. I could feel her love. As I question this, I go, wait a minute, she didn't die. She left her body. And that's all the great spiritual teachings is that it's a transition. It's just like taking off this shirt and putting on another one. It's leaving this body and going into another dimension. We operate here in 3 dimensions, There's people speculate there might be up to 50 to 100 different dimensions. Everything is frequency, and we operate as humans in the frequency of light, which is only less than, it's 0.3% of the universe functions in light. The rest of it is dark. So our frequency that you and I are in right now is the frequency of light. And so we can communicate. But there's pitches or sounds that only a dog can hear, only a dolphin can hear. There's other frequencies, there's other dimensions, there's other vibrations. And Tesla thought, hey, everything is just vibration.
So obviously I get a lot of time to talk to authors that have done as well as you, and deep buried in all the stories, there's always a nuance, and you have an affinity to butterflies.
Yeah.
So we have to explore that. Let's talk about butterflies for a few minutes.
Well, I mean, butterflies are a wonderful concept, right? A little caterpillar dies into a cocoon and rises again as this beautiful butterfly. But my wife Margot loved butterflies. I had this amazing butterfly experience after she had passed. She was getting ready to leave her body, and it was going to be quickly. And my sister and her husband were supposed to go on a hiking trip to Yosemite. And they agonized whether to go or not, and the hospice said, yes, she'll still be here when you come back. Take a day and go. So they went, and my wife passed while they were gone, and my daughter called my sister to tell her, and because they were in Yosemite, they couldn't get the call until they got a little higher up Half Dome. And so they saw the missed call, and they immediately knew, what probably had happened, and then they listened to the voicemail. And my sister got very emotional, and she took off running ahead of all the other people that they were with. And this butterfly was following her. And one of her girlfriends was running her, trying to catch up to her, saying, Stacy, there's this butterfly that's following you. And when she finally caught her, and Stacy stopped, and the butterfly was around her knees, and literally flew up and looked directly into her eyes, and she could immediately feel Margot's presence. It was a very profound moment, and my sister got a lot of peace out of that. That was maybe a few hours after Margot had taken her last breath.
In a different part of the world.
And yeah, 3-hour drive away. The next day, on Sunday, Margot died on a Saturday morning, and my sister was in Yosemite Saturday at noon. The next day, my son, Chris, went rock climbing with a buddy of his, and as they threw the ropes down from the rocks and they walked around so they could climb up, there was a butterfly on his rope. And he immediately could sense Margot's presence. He didn't know this was a story about my sister. And he immediately sensed her presence and had this moment of her being there. And he had already known that she'd passed on. But it was amazing, peaceful, calming situation. And so I heard that story. So now, I'm already in a surreal, grief-stricken, devastated. Nothing was real for me. And so literally that Sunday afternoon when he got home until 10 o'clock that night, I said at least 100 times to people in my house and in my family that were gathered there, where's my butterfly story? Where's my butterfly story? 100 times I said this. At 10 o'clock that night, I received a text message with a photograph of a butterfly from a woman that sold cars at my car dealership that I'd never met because I'd been out of the office for 7 months going through this terminal part with Margot. And this butterfly had flown into this dealership in downtown Oakland, California, where butterflies don't hang out much.
Your car dealership?
Yeah, my car dealership, and flew a good 60 feet inside the building, as close to my locked office door as you could get without going into it, and sat right behind this sales lady's desk. And this was in the afternoon, at about the same time my son was rock climbing, and she took a photograph of it. And then another thing that blows my mind is that she asked a very dear friend of mine who's worked with me for 27 years and who knew Margot very well and has been very instrumental in my life, and asked him to escort the butterfly gently outside. And so he literally picks it up and walks it outside, and the butterfly flies around. So I received this text from this woman I don't know at 10 o'clock that night after saying this 100 times, where's my butterfly story? I've never seen a butterfly in that car dealership in 18 years. I've never seen one before or since. And then I learned, she tells me that the type of butterfly that it is called a mourning, like in mourning, M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G, mourning butterfly. I mean, so take that as you may, but I don't believe in coincidences. So yeah. I think that was a message from beyond. And I've had many since then.
But Margot actually loved butterflies.
Yeah, and she loved hummingbirds as well. So yeah, she really loved butterflies.
Was part of your conversations. It wasn't just you knew she did. There was throughout your lives, there was lots of conversations, lots of butterflies, lots of that in your life.
Yeah, and she loved what the butterfly represented, which is transition, a metamorphosis, if you will, from life to death to life again, and a more beautiful life.